So today is about understanding that you have control over yourself and to stop controlling your partner.
Welcome to Understand Your Man. I'm Nathan Joblin, co-founder of Modern Wisdom Press and author of the book Trapped, The Responsible Man's Guide to Personal Freedom and Happiness.
And I'm Natasha and Nathan, a psychotherapist with over 20 years in the field. I bring the perspective that we as women need to heal and ground ourselves in our own energy so that we make space that invites our partners forward to connect us in the intimacy and safety that we crave, that we deserve.
As well as an understanding of the varied needs operating for men, including to feel admired, respected, and needed.
This podcast aims to build a bridge between men and their female partners by offering an understanding of why your man may not be showing up in the way you know he's capable of.
All right. Hey, Natasha, how are you?
I'm good. How are you, Nathan?
I'm good as well. Thanks. So what are we going to talk about today?
I think all of it, in the sense that really bringing home all of the things we've talked about in the last 6 episodes. About now that we have a bit of a mental model, meaning we have a conceptualization of what are the relationships we really want? How are we not on the same page with our partners or our children or our families? How are we not on the same page with ourselves and what we actually want and need? And how do we start making changes? We've talked about making changes from the perspective of let's not keep doing what we've been doing to try to control or manipulate or get our own way by force. And by force just means either withholding or stonewalling or nagging or ignoring or doing it ourselves or leaving or fighting. All of that stuff is going to lead to the exact same outcome. And if it was going to work, it would have worked by now. So we've been working up for the last 6 episodes to just pull you out of the energy and the scenario that's going on and start playing a little bit with touch or space or calming ourselves or inviting our partner's perspective or looking at the family that we exist in. What does the first 5 minutes look like when you come home? How do we facilitate that with our own energy, with our own tone of voice? So that's where we've been. Now it's, well, my energy isn't calm. And I can't even be in my body. And I'm trying to touch this man calmly, but really I want to strangle him, or I want to curl up in a ball and cry. It really is today about we as women looking at what is the energy that we're actually holding inside. Because that energy actually is contagious. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I know that just from, my experience in being in a connected relationship is that I'm just attuned, to what's to her. To a certain extent, it's subconscious, but it's also, my energy seeks her out. And so, I know that it works the other direction too. So, when you're seeking out the partner, your partner, and there's something fiery there, then, well, here we go.
Right? And if it's on one level fiery, which would be like the anxious, ambivalent, like attachment style that can be more aggressive, right? We've talked about fight, flight, freeze, fragment, flow. Or some men that I work with in my psychotherapy practice, their energy wants to go out and connect with their partner, their woman, and her energy is gone, vacant, absent, numb, checked out. And so we do need to talk a little bit about energy today. And what I mean by energy is motion, which is just energy in motion. And that energy has an imprint. It's either sadness, fear, grief, disgust, right? Like I said, some behaviors are attached to that: withholding, fighting, manipulating. And 95% of it is actually unconscious. And the majority of it was there before you even met your partner. And so this piece is really important to understand. Energies attract each other. And when people talk in the spiritual world, and this gets us into trouble a lot because we don't really understand what it means, like attracts like. Well, what like attracts like means is that if I have an anxious ambivalent style, I need to understand my anxious ambivalent style, which means I'm going to attract someone that is closed off, avoidant, and dismissive. So I can see how anxious and ambivalent and how needy I am because he won't give me what I need. Same thing with women who have a dismissive avoidance style, meaning that they need like a lot of space to feel safe. They need a lot of autonomy to feel connected. Well, you also isolate yourself in order to get that. So if you feel like you need so much space, you're going to attract someone that doesn't give you any. And that's the anxious, ambivalent partner that you're attracting. Does that make sense?
Oh my gosh. Well, it does make sense, a bit much sense, because I'm going to extrapolate then that if we're entering a relationship without having self-awareness, the partner will be attracted to, it's almost a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yes, because
In
that's
terms
how we get self awareness. This part's important. As much I can know I have an anxious, ambivalent style. Who cares?
but it's that our energy is seeking to work through this.
Thank you.
Okay.
It's not because we're masochists. It's not because we want to inflict abuse on others and on ourselves. It's because we're calling in the circumstances in our life that we need to actually heal. Now, there's two schools of thought here. So, some couples therapists that you'll work with will talk all about compatibility. Compatibility means my attachment style and your attachment style are compatible, and we live in copacetic ease because we both need a lot of space, or we both need a lot of attention, which means we work together, or we both need a lot of space means like I travel all the time. Compatibility is beautiful and perfect. Good for you if you have that. If you have that, you're probably not listening to this because you don't need to. However, some of us are on a different path. It's not good, bad, right, wrong. My energy, my humanness, my soul is about wanting to heal and move to a higher level of connection. So I need to break free of any anxious, ambivalent patterns that I might have, or any avoidant, dismissive patterns I might have. Well, how else am I going to do that except in a relationship? So it's about understanding what is my partner triggering in me and what am I triggering in them so that I can heal it. And I have to heal it in the relationship, meaning I need a different experience. Which means, how can I be self aware enough and my partner be self aware enough that we can build enough safety to have that conversation? That's all we're doing here. How do we build enough safety to have a conversation that my body needs a different experience of being seen, heard, and understood? How does that land when I say it like that?
A little bit of overwhelm in there, and thinking like that's what relationships are for, is to go through the stuff. And so there's that. But, and, for me personally, to contrast that is that, in my own life, I've worked a lot to accept, the past and things that happened to me, and shortcomings or challenges or unhappiness. Not that I'm actively out there messing things up, but I have been in those places, and I think about how people come together, and we each have our own experience, and then we come together, and that's a whole other thing, right? So that's a whole new thing in the room, and I find comfort though by understanding that, by choosing to believe that ultimately my life, speaking for myself and your life, this is a global philosophy. Our lives are acts of creative expression. If nothing else, that's why we're here. That the energy, as you framed it, emotion wants to express itself somehow. And so I choose to think that the potential and the complexity and all that is just weird human magic. Because nature, it doesn't seem like nature would on her own create such an imbalanced creature.
Well, nature didn't, and if we want to take it more philosophical, the natural order of things is for me to be present. And so if my partner shows up and is in a mood or is behaving in a way that is unbecoming of how to treat someone else with worth and value and respect, he's not in his nature. He's not my partner. The man in my life is not in his nature of protecting, providing, caring, and nurturing for you. That is a man's nature, biologically. That is why you are equipped with the bodies that you have and the analytical minds that you have. so that you can actually stand on guard in the physical world. And so if you're not in your nature, you are treating me badly and you badly. And so bringing you back to your nature is opening your heart again so that you can serve yourself and your family in love. And so what we're doing and why we're attracting each other with opposite attachment styles is to heal, to come back into our nature, which is loving, patient, curious, and supportive. Women are also not in their nature right now. It is not in our nature to be manipulative, to lie, to be hysterical, to be out of control, to be depleted, to be angry and resentful. That is not our nature, and that is how we are living. We are living that way because the bodies that we have, this is biological. The bodies that we have are vulnerable to the elements in a way that men's bodies are not. And so if we don't feel protected in childhood, if we don't have that role model of a male in our lives that is nurturing, protecting, providing, giving, and caring, well, then the female nervous system goes, how else am I going to keep myself safe in the physical world? Now we're out of our nature because we have to use our emotions in a way because we can't use our physical strength in a certain way. And so men and women come together to help themselves feel safe. Make sense?
It does. And when I heard you with that list of, manipulative, all those other things too, I it sounds like a lot of men as well. Well, so many of those qualities overlap. And so that made me just think about the larger moment we're living in and just the human response to all the outside stressors that we see is similar,
Yes, we're
yeah.
humans. It just expresses generally different in women and men because of our physiology and our biology. So if we can shift the framework now about how we've started this podcast, which is how do we go first as women? How do we wake up, understand that we're just looking for safety, loving connection, and believing that our partners also want safety, loving connection? If we can start there and start bringing the temperature down in ourselves to invite them forward, now we can get in the arena to start making safety for each other, to heal all of that vulnerability we had when we were really young and had imprints of what relationships and family and the world and humans are like. That's what we're trying to work out with each other. We just forget that when we're grocery shopping, or the kid has a crisis, or we're both working, or the mortgage needs to be paid, or your mother-in-law got sick. We all fall asleep. And we forget that our partners are supposed to be our allies. And instead, we abuse each other and ourselves. Fun day today, eh, Nathan?
Yeah.
I think it's
Yeah.
important that we tell each other the truth.
Well, and we're looking at these. We're being real, and so it's not as if I don't think that there's anything outrageous that you said. All of that I've experienced those things, and I've also experienced finding a place to trust and not to make a leap and to change things. And it's like the 5-minute thing we introduced. Like just put a little crack in that armor, a little crack in that daily experience, and it becomes really, dare I say, pleasurable to move through the shit.
And how the difference it makes when I wake up and do not react in the way that I'm used to reacting, and I can slow myself down and respond with curiosity and softness. The only way I can do that, though, is knowing that you're not going anywhere. That piece is really important. There needs to be safety in a relationship that I can show up and we'll work through this.
Yeah.
And
And
that's
I know that I know that goes both ways. I
has
for a
to,
fact. Yeah.
has to go both ways. And so I'm not going to show you my most vulnerable self if you can leave. And what I mean by leave is I'm too much for you. Or you just, or something that I'm going to reject or humiliate you. How do we actually take our armor off and expose ourselves to a person and trust that we will be seen and that they will stay. Staying doesn't mean that they need to stay in the room. Staying means that their energy is committed to you and working it out. And we feel that. And that's why the anxious attachment style and the dismissive attachment style is the most charged, passionate, and painful. Because for the one that needs lots of space and is dismissive, to feel safe, they need to disconnect their energy, which is the most painful thing for someone with an anxious attachment, because it was the abandonment that they experienced that has crushed them. And so the most painful thing for this person, the dismissive person, is when we go after them and then they push away further. Mm-hmm. However, we have to understand the absolute pain that we've caused in the anxious person. So how do both parties stay safe? Well, that comes down to the nervous system. And that piece of work, I would argue, is individual. Your partner is there as the secondary source of support. You are your primary source of support. Primary support means I can calm myself down and then ask you for what I need.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that, because, that personal responsibility is all that makes sense, really, because if you're counting on someone else to change to be happy, no, not going to happen. In fact, the opposite will happen.
Well, and the pieces that I love to say all the time, because I have so many clients that say to me and they go, he's an asshole. Or they'll come to me and just be like, oh, that naggy, blah, blah, blah. And I always say to myself and then to them, what you don't repair, you're going to repeat. So if you don't figure yourself out in this relationship, you're just going to attract the next one. So today is about understanding that you have control over yourself and to stop controlling your partner. Once you get a handle on yourself and understand your triggers, understand how to regulate your own nervous system so that you can ask for what you need, things start to shift and change. And then the $1 million question is always, okay, I keep hearing about this nervous system. I know how to go to yoga. I know how to meditate. I can breathe. One therapist told me to hold an ice cube. I go, that's all great. That's all helping you build capacity in your nervous system, but it's not necessarily healing the trigger that lives in your nervous system.
Well, hold on a second. What's that ice cube supposed to do? Is it like a cold plunge or something? It's just like invigorating?
Not so much invigorating, but it gives you something else to focus on. So if you get activated and your emotional experience is so big and so large, you're no longer actually perceiving reality as it is. And we can talk more about how the autonomic nervous system works in the sense that it takes energy, blood, oxygen from your reproductive system, respiratory system, immune system, cardiovascular system, women reproductive systems. And now all of a sudden you're just focusing on the emotional experience of catastrophe and abandonment. When you focus on an ice cube, it brings you back to physical reality that you're safe in the moment.
Cool.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Literally. That's a cheap little trick to know.
Yes. So again, it can calm you down when your partner slams the door and leaves you and you feel all that fear. It brings you back down to this moment. However, you're triggered still. Go ahead.
Sure. And a little confession to make as we talk. I have a little rock that, it's just what I do.
It brings you back to the present moment. And for those listening that have more of an anxious style, meaning that our partners, when they remove their energy, it really activates us. Having something physical is really important, like a stone or an ice cube or a little spoon or something, because it gets the neocortex back online that goes, we will talk again. There will be a conversation.
Yeah. And on a practical level, keeping me in the moment, just having this little rock to play with is just that I don't know where this conversation's going, right? And so if I'm up here, then I'm like trying to keep ahead of the conversation, and that's not where I want to be. I want to be responding in the moment. But this helps me feel grounded, as you put it,
and present. And so this is where, again, I would say trying to force my mind and body to be present is kind of cruel to ourselves, because the truth is something just triggered me and took me out. Something you said, did, or the way that you looked at me. It's not personal, but it triggered something from my own history that was unconscious that has now been made conscious. So I actually can't be present with you because my body has just been activated into fight, flight, freeze, fragment, or flow. So how can we pause, have enough safety in our relationship to go, babe,
Yeah.
something got hit. I'm not here.
And I'm just, I know this too. I'm just thinking about it now. Back in my drinking days, I didn't want to, I guess I was unhappy and I didn't really want to be in my body. Right. So that's part of the drinking thing is that detachment. I'm hearing that now.
That one's
As we're talking
flow.
about.
That one's flow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Fight, flight, freeze, fragment, flow. Drinking is flow. So this is just to get us to start getting curious this week with your partner, with your kids, with even your coworkers. As women, I'm speaking right now because you're going to teach this to your man. You got to understand it first. Pay attention to what's actually going on in your body, how present you actually are, how terrified you get, how angry you get, how frozen you get, how much you need a glass of wine or need to scroll, how much you disassociate. All of these little triggers all day, every day. You're beginning to make the unconscious conscious. And then next time we'll talk about specific therapies individually that will really help regulate your nervous system so that you can co-regulate your partner's and your children's nervous system, which means when I'm calm, they're calmer. Feel okay for today?
Yeah. That was a lot. That was a lot of ground covered, but I think it was all tied together nicely. So thank you. I really appreciate, the expertise or experience that you bring. And I do find that even when I get stuck on words, when we're talking about something and I get kind of caught up trying to really express myself, I also understand that I also see that I understand what we're talking about. I'm just having a hard time getting it out. And so that's nice, nice practice for me to continue to work on the language that feels practical, and relevant just to me. And at the same time, I do understand these larger concepts and, internal family systems and, spirituality and all these things, but I'm really a work in progress. And so when I speak with you and we're having this higher level conversation, it's really like a lot of material for me to try to bring down into framing that resonates with me so that I understand it and get it, because you can say it, but I don't get it until it's clicked into my brain.
I love everything that you've just said. It's like our closing note that's really important for women and men to understand. You can say anything you want to your man all day, every day, but if he doesn't have an internal experience in his own language of it and to conceptualize it, he's not ignoring you. He's not freezing. He's trying to follow in his own language. And this is why we as women, we really do have our own language where your girlfriends understand you in a certain way. No different with guys when they're like, my buddies just get me. There is
we don't even use words. It's just a raised eyebrow.
True. And so this is where we need to be more understanding and slow down. And each couple need to develop their own language, which requires a level of safety and connection so that we can activate the parts of the brain that actually hold language. So it's all going to come together. Today, we're just laying some more seeds, but we'll talk next time and go through it again.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Nathan.
And that's the show. We'll be back next week with new insight and clarity in building a bridge of understanding between men and women in partnership, leading to the deeper connections we all seek. In the meantime, please subscribe to Understand Your Man wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you found any of this inspiring or helpful, please leave us 5 stars and a positive review. Remember, sharing your opinion as a listener is the best way for others to find us and, hopefully, begin to engage the tips and practical guidance offered here in their own lives in new and exciting ways. If you would like to send us a question or suggest a topic for discussion, feel free to reach out via email at understandyourmanpodcast@gmail.com. Thank you.